Very much indeed, Las Concorla. We are in a climate and biodiversity emergency, there's no doubt about that. And I think we as a country are going to rise to the challenge and we'll be able to become leaders in the response rather than laggards, which we are at the moment. And I think that because I think this House reflects the Irish people. I think they want to do it. And I believe, Minister, that the Taoiseach and Tánaiste and yourself as Minister, and Minister Murphy beside you and Fine Gael are sincere in your desire for us to tackle this issue. And I think that partly underpinned by the fact that I think the people who vote for you want us to tackle that issue. You don't just represent industrial interests, you represent the people, and I know from this recent election and previously that the Irish people want to do it. And I trust that Fianna Fáil have the same instinct, and they also represent their voters and their people who, from my sense, genuinely don't want to destroy the future for their children. And I similarly have faith in the Labour Party, I have faith in Sinn Féin, and I agree most of the time with my socialist friends that actually in this change, in doing this, we can change the way the whole economy works. It's not just keeping everything the same and just changing around the edges to do this. This is everything. And Deputy Brewin, I trust the independents in this House. Even those I fundamentally disagree with, who seem to be always time arguing against that this is the wrong thing for us to do, or this brings huge fear. Not yourself now, but I'm thinking some other colleagues we could remember. I think we should listen to them and answer their fears in making this leap. And I think somewhat we stand up for this House. I think we've done good work in this House in the last couple of years on this subject, because I believe there's consensus now, just as I believe there's consensus among the Irish people that we want to do this, and that's been reflected on the work we've done. And I think we have to now organise as to where we go from here to show that leadership. And I think we go to our people. We trust them and ask them. We ask them for help rather than telling them what to do. We admit it's going to be difficult. It's a huge challenge. It requires massive change. But it's change for the better. It's change that we should not be fearful of. It's not penury and hardship and disadvantage that will be brought, but actually a fairer and more successful society and country. We have to avoid the mistakes they've made in America, where this has become an issue of division between left and right. We have to avoid what just happened in France, where les Gilets jaunes were kind of rightly coming and saying, hold on a sec, you've forgotten about us. We have to make sure this is a just transition. We have to make sure in responding to it, we do not accentuate or give the sense of a rural-urban divide. This has to be good for rural people and urban people right across our country, and I believe we can do that. We have to avoid the mistakes the UK are making in recognising that this we have to do in cooperation, particularly within the Paris Agreement, every country in the world, but particularly within Europe, where we can raise the funds to help us make the change that we need to do. So I don't doubt the sincerity of everyone in this House in their desire to make the leap that we have to make. I fear in the scale of the challenge, while the government have agreed now on the goal, although they haven't quite articulated it, we need to do that very clearly, but I think they're slightly frozen in a conservative way with the scale of the challenge. And the response that they're coming up so far in terms of the solutions that we will apply are technocratic in nature and marginal and are not sufficiently bold. It's not system change. And 2% per annum will not do. And putting it off until the next decade will not do. And making decisions today that make it even more difficult in subsequent decades has to change today, now. We need a vision for how that different system will work. And I think, Minister, let's take your action plan. As I said to you yesterday, I asked you that question about Action 110. In the actions that you've set out. Let's use that. Let's now go beyond this House and broaden out the debate. Let's use that national climate dialogue that is in train, but broaden it out far further. To everyone with an interest in the way that our land is managed, to come together to set out a map for what we're going to do. Everyone with an interest in farming, everyone with an interest in wildlife, everyone with an interest in bogs and our seas as well. And go to them saying what we need to do, which I think we all agree on, is we need to treat every place as special. We need to restore hedgerows around every field. We need to change the nature of that field to be where biodiversity is protected and not destroyed. We need to go out to our sea areas, which is 10 times our land areas, and take the advice of E.O. Wilson, set aside half of it for marine protection areas where we stop fishing, we stop every activity, and we measure and monitor what's going on in the North Atlantic as one of our contributions to climate leadership in this world, because that's one of the threats, what's happening in the North Atlantic. Let's understand that. Let's be world experts in managing it and managing the difference that happens in an ecosystem when you start protecting it rather than destroying it, and the benefits it may accrue to us in storing carbon and having stronger, more resilient marine systems. Let's be honest with our people. We will be eating, or will be better for us to eat less meat, and we will not rely on the current model where we're just exporting live cattle, selling them to farmers at less than €5 a head, and actually trading on a green origin green brand, but actually getting a commodity price. It's not serving Irish farming. Let's be honest with them. Yes, our herd is going to be smaller. It has to shrink. But in the gap, in the way of doing it differently, we switch on a whole new horticulture sector in Irish society. And in every different area we look at how could we create a natural forest that is a pleasure and a joy to walk through, not just do thousands of hectares every year of single crop, quick rotation, monoculture forestry. Let's go in that mapping of a new land use plan where we ask all the people of different communities around the country, we go to the people in Leitrim and Roscommon and say, we hear what you're saying, that we can't just keep going with forestry as is, and now open the honest question. Well, if we did forestry in this different way, which would create tens of thousands of jobs for our younger people, and which would create a beautiful local environment that restores biodiversity as well as giving us a long-term wood supply, would that work? And in the same way, we've just elected our councils right across the country. Let's go to every single council and ask them to do a new development plan which is reflecting a climate emergencies. Those councils are declaring climate emergencies as I speak. I believe Roscommon is due, Eugene, to declare a climate emergency next week. Well, let's start in Roscommon by saying how could we restore life to towns like Ballinrobe, the Sensford or Boyle, stunning towns with Bianconi's Hotel there in the centre of the village sitting empty. Could we not put in a brilliant bus service there so the towns like that are restored, and use the houses which are currently dilapidated and shuttered and closed down as a solution to our housing crisis by bringing people back into the core? And do that in every town. And do it in our city centres, where we were big, with the fact that in Limerick only 3% of the population is living in the historic core. Could we not flip that around, and instead of building massive motorways between Limerick and Cork, build a public transport system in Limerick and in Cork now as a way of building those cities up, bring life back to the centre of Cork, and put a tidal barrage at the edge of the harbour so that actually Cork has a sustainable long-term future no matter what the sea level rise is. That level of big radical ambition and change is what we need to do now. And we can and will do it collaboratively and collectively, and we will do it well. In just what you've said, Minister Bruton, you're right, an action plan should be iterative, should be willing to open it to look at things, doing things differently. Just holding on to the current National Development Plan as if that in any way helps us is not true to that approach. That's the first thing that we have to willingly admit has to change. And we should respond to those climate strikers who've played a huge role in changing the consciousness. What I found in the election is I heard older people responding to me at the doors, Fianna Fáil voters, socialist voters, Fine Gael voters saying, yeah, I'm keen to act. We need to listen to what they're saying because what they're saying is true. And could we start in our climate emergency, in every school this September, start asking the question, how would we create a safe route in every school? So that not the current situation where only 20% of our children get the level of exercise they need every day, but instead we will design a system where they can walk and cycle and take the bus to school. And see that as part of their response to the climate emergency we face. And put all our engineers on that, put all our best people on that, set that as our first task about a new generation going into 21st century Ireland that is actually green in every way. I think it's doable. I think we need to be brave and ambitious. We need to go beyond what's in the existing plan, which is not good enough, particularly in transport and agriculture. It's the two great failings. In energy, there's a lot of initiatives. We all know that to make them actually happen is going to be a massive challenge. But we are up to this challenge. We will be good at this. This country is set to be good at this. We are set to become leaders. Let's go out and do it.